Okay, welcome to the Village Council meeting for Yellow Springs for July the 1st. It is July already, wow. I think we're going to start right off with accepting a motion to move into, oh, we have to do roll call, sorry. Okay, roll call.
All right, DeVore Leonard.
Yes, here.
Brown.
Here.
Hausch.
Here.
Gustafson.
Here.
Kevin Stokes will join later via Zoom. Also present is Village Manager Johnny Burns.
Okay, that was the first of what will be many mess-ups, and now we will take a, whatever it's called, to get into executive session for considering the compensation of a public employee. Yes, a motion.
I so moved.
Okay.
Second?
Excellent.
Inch. All right, DeVore Leonard.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Hausch.
Yes.
Gustafson.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, we'll see you in an hour. Okay, we have just returned from executive session. If I could get a motion to resume to a regular meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye? Okay, did I do that right, Judy? Okay. All right, hello to everyone. We have actually returned to our meeting now. Welcome to those who are just beginning to see us. So we'll start off with announcements. Are there any announcements?
Johnny, do you want to talk about July 4th?
Well, I can talk about it, and hopefully it will not be raining.
Okay.
So we're in constant communication with the chamber. The parade does start at 2 o'clock on Thursday, and the fireworks will be later that evening. We will also be watching the weather, and the fireworks people will let us know whether they can or cannot do it, hopefully before the parade starts. So stay tuned to social media.
Okay. Yeah, I wanted to highlight a few other things. I did want to say thanks again to the YS Pride organization committee. What a great festival once again. We made it through the crazy preacher who went away very quickly, and I guess I want to say related to that I appreciated how our police officers as well as citizens handled that. It's very,
That's called being unbothered and not letting someone steal our joy.
Exactly. Thank you, Carmen. Yes. So we had a great day. This kind of reminded me, I was really impressed to see how quickly the banners changed out from Street Fair to YS Pride. And I just want to thank our Public Works team because, changing out those banners is a big deal, but it really adds so much to our community. So really appreciate that, Johnny and crew. Also wanted to just internal update. The winners for the Best Places to Work in Dayton are going to be announced on July 12th. They moved that back a week, so we'll see what happens at our next meeting. Village Cafe was here at the John Bryan Center last week, focusing on affordability. Some really great comments came up that I know will be shared out in the report that Lynn Kramer will put together. But I had some really good takeaways in the different tables that I went to. I know Gavin was there, and it was just definitely adding to the conversation. And I think that's all I've got.
Great, thanks. Any other announcements?
I would just add, Kevin here, I would just add to Brian's thank yous about the banner work. They actually switched from Street Fair to Juneteenth.
True.
So there was an extra swap out in there that they had to do, and I want to add my thanks to the group for doing that. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Can I just ask for a motion? Okay, does anybody want to make a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second?
Judy, call voice
those
vote?
in favor?
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Okay, now we will do review of agenda. Are there any things on the review of the agenda that anybody has any questions about? Okay. We don't have to vote on that, right? Okay. Petitions and communications. Carmen, do you mind reading those?
Sure. The clerk will receive and file an email from Evelyn Lemairs regarding the Green Space Fund.
Sorry you didn't get a larger speaking. Okay, next up, public hearings and legislation. Judy, if you could read the first one, please, by title only.
Indeed, and there's a little typo on there, nobody panic. This is reading of Resolution 2024-45. This is approving the Finance Director's 2025 tax budget for the Village of Yellow Springs.
Great, I think that'll be Michelle. Hi.
Oh, you need to ask for a motion.
Oh, could I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
All right. The 2025 tax budget, it is required every year by Greene County Budget Commission. It just requires the tax budgets be prepared for the upcoming tax year. One of the duties of the commission is to ensure that there is still a need for the property tax levies that are being levied against the taxpayers. The proposed 2025 budget is in the format that's required by the county auditor, so that's why you see it in the format that it's in. It's just an estimated projection. We're just going off the prior 2 years and what we've received so far this year and what we've spent this year. This is not set in stone. It's just a preliminary. We're going to start working on the proper final budget here in the next couple months.
Are there any questions for Michelle?
I mean, only, I think it's just good to highlight that, the Finance Committee met. We had a great discussion about some of the different issues, and Michelle, I think you've done a great job presenting what we need to look at. And again, to some degree, we are limited by what the county expects. So, but yeah, we feel really, I felt really good about the budget, so, or feel good about it.
Other questions or thoughts? Okay, thank you. I guess we'll go ahead and call the roll.
You can just do a
Or
voice
just
vote if you like.
Voice vote, sure. Voice vote.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay, I don't think I did that the last time, so
Yeah.
that was my
Nice
first
job.
opposed and abstentions.
Yeah.
All right, reading of Resolution 2024-46. Judy, can you do that by title only, please?
Indeed. This is approving a contract with Amelia N. Blankenship for continued legal services to the Village of Yellow Springs.
Okay, can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
Voice.
I guess, Kevin, do you want to say anything to start, or should one of us frame this before we hand it off to Amy, or just hand it off? Oh, you're on mute, Kevin. Ooh, close.
Okay. You know that thing where they say hit the space bar? That only works 1/3 of the time. No, I think just what I would offer in terms of the framing is words that other folks have shared, that we feel like we are in good hands in terms of our legal representation with Amy as our solicitor. We don't, however, want to take that for granted. We do want to be judicious in the expenditure of taxpayer dollars. So we, I think, have put forth an effort that has left us in a good place from a financial perspective. We do need to, as a couple of other council members have reflected, be wise in terms of our use of Amy's time, and to try to, when we do present things to her, make sure we do the best we can to give her a fully baked cake, or a little bit more than a half-baked cake, if you will, so that she doesn't have to spend much time spinning her wheels and whatnot. But I'm happy, again, with the services, and I think we look forward to this just a little bit of a shift in the way that the relationship exists, but we'll still continue to get good work and good services. I look forward to that in the future. Thank you.
Okay, just for context, all we're doing here is we're just, the solicitor contract is up, so we have to review it and decide about how to proceed, and so we're, Amy was going to share a little bit of information about it, so I'll hand it over to you, Amy.
Sure. Thanks, Gavin. Yes, the contract is up. I can't believe it, but it's been 2 years since you appointed me as your solicitor. That went by really fast, and I've enjoyed every day of it. I appreciate the opportunity to revisit the contract. I appreciate the discussion discussions that I've had with council into exec sessions about it. It is, at the risk of sounding overly gracious here, it is my honor to be the solicitor of the Village of Yellow Springs. I enjoy it, and I look forward to another 2 years, which is the term of this contract. It's changing from our retainer model to an hourly model of $275 an hour. As we've all discussed, that will change the dynamic and the way I interact with staff on a day-to-day basis, but we'll work through that together, and time will only hit the bill when the ball moves down the field, as we talked about in the exec session. Brian and I have been, we discussed in exec session, we've also discussed by text since. There's an issue in section 3 of the contract that I think needs a bigger tweak than just removing that 2A. So there will be a slightly redlined version that I'll float past you tomorrow, if that's okay with the rest of council, because the resolution covers in a form substantially similar. So let's clarify that language and make sure that that 3A is as clear as it can be. And beyond that, I'm happy to take any questions that you might have. And I think, one other change I wanted to call everyone's attention. In the past, solicitor contracts have been signed by the president and council. This one is tweaked to have it signed by the village manager. I think that's a more proper process under our charter, with council giving him the authority to sign it as he does all other contracts on behalf of the village.
I guess I'll add a few things. So one of the things that we've done in doing our due diligence is get feedback on what the rates are in our area, similar sized municipalities, but also bigger municipalities. And so we feel very confident that this rate is in line with what most other municipalities are paying, and a lot of them are paying much more. But the other thing that has been really important in engaging Amy Blankenship and basically having one of the top 2 firms that do municipal law in Ohio is that proactiveness. We ran some numbers to see, just what the history of our legal fees have been, and when we have not been proactive with our legal advice, it has been rather costly. We took a turn and decided to go for quantity versus quality, and that also led to creating some additional outside fees. And so we felt very good about what's been happening the last 2 years. In particular, Amy, I really think it's great that you come to agenda planning, you come to the meetings, and are able to get ahead of things by really understanding the context. That makes all the difference. So ultimately, I don't think this is going to translate to a lot more in legal fees for the village beyond things that we can't control, such as some of the property, residential economic development initiatives, which are not normally contemplated. So,
Any other comments? Go ahead, Ken.
Sorry about that. I will just add that the first couple of comments that Amy made when she got to the podium with respect to that, Section 3, Section 2A business, we thought we had it settled, but apparently in the last couple of minutes, she's been working harder on our behalf and has a better suggestion on how to handle that, and I appreciate that. And certainly with respect to the contract signature, where we have the village manager taking responsibility instead of council president, I personally appreciate that. So another good example of the type of professionalism that we are blessed to have in a real-time basis there. Thanks once again. Thank you.
Trish or Carmen, anything?
I don't have anything to add.
Okay. The only thing I'll repeat that we talked about in exec session, just so the public has a sense, is just we're certainly aware that we're moving from a retainer model to an hourly model, and have talked about some basic sort of parameters and systems to ensure that we're checking so that the hours that we're using feel like they're appropriate, and we think we can ensure that the monies are well utilized. Amy, is there anything else you want to add, or any other questions you have or anything?
No, I'm very grateful again for your time and your attention to this. Thank you very much, and look forward to working with you for another 2 years.
Okay, thank you. So I guess call the roll. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed or abstentions? Okay. You're stuck with us. All right. That's snark. That's snark. I see it. All right. We're going to move on to the reading of Resolution 2024-47. Judy, if you could do that by title only, please.
This is granting monies to Yellow Springs Development Corporation for the purpose of contributing to the funding of a part-time director position for the YSDC.
Okay. Could I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. So I'll just say that there's a bunch of materials in the packet, so I'm going to assume that folks have read them. I know there's, I don't know, there may be folks here who want to speak to the issue. And then I know there's a video that we were going to show, a brief, like a 1-minute video as part of the promotional materials. I think I'll just frame and say that in Amy's memo, there was sort of a question around, do we sort of move forward with a plan, or move forward without a plan but a promise to get a plan? I think those were the pieces. So happy to take any comments or questions, but just to note that, like, I think that provided a pretty good formulation for us to be discussing, and it'd be good to get a sense of where folks are at. So should we just, is anybody in charge of this, or should I just open it up to, are you kind of in charge?
Maybe I can
Okay.
give a little lead off, and then, but I think mostly it's going to be Lisa and Michael's here to speak.
Okay.
Well, Ben, do we have that video ready?
We sure do.
Okay,
Would you like
Judy?
it?
Yeah, this is something that I wanted to see or make sure that council members and villagers get to see what the Yellow Springs Development Corporation team has been working on in conjunction with the village. And it's still in development, but it's really cool. Yeah, and I just wanted to, and this is also why I put the PowerPoint in the packet, was because a lot of us weren't at the meeting that we had in May where we really brought in regional folks, Dayton Development Coalition, Miami Valley Regional Planning, Dayton Chamber, a lot of our local leaders. Johnny did a great job presenting, got a nice round of applause about just what a great village team we have. And I then handed over to Lisa Abel, who really can speak to this. If you're ready, Lisa.
Sure. And then I'd like to ask that Michael Slaughter be able to talk. He's got some information directly related to Intel. Lisa Abel, I'm the volunteer director for YSDC. And there's a lot of stuff in your packet about why we are requesting this funding. I was here last time to give you kind of the big picture of what's going on. I just wanted to give you a couple of snippets from some news articles over the past year or so. So one is that with the Intel build, the footprint right now includes over 350 businesses as suppliers, and they anticipate that growing, at least tripling by that number. The plants in Ohio from Intel will support, they're going to have about 3,000 employees, and then the suppliers and other ripple effects will support about 10,000 additional jobs in Ohio. This one's focused on Springfield, and they were saying communities such as New Carlisle and Springfield are focused on adding housing opportunities because more jobs will be added in the area and a shift to remote workers, cheaper cost of living compared to Dayton and Columbus. They also note that having housing for workers who can work remotely actually adds to the tax base of the place where they live. So that's another aspect for us to consider. And then, that the county, this is Clark County again, can benefit from Intel's planned investment because that type of manufacturing requires a lot of water. Clark County has access to the Buried Valley Aquifer, which has about 1.5 trillion gallons of water. I think we have access to that same aquifer. And then there have been a few manufacturers that have been highlighted in the news that have already moved or merged in the Dayton and Springfield region. One is Libra Industries that merged with Gem City Engineering, and they are a supplier to Intel, so they've already moved in to gear up for supplying Intel. They're in Dayton, so they're further away than we would be. And then Quality Quartz Engineering moved its headquarters to Dayton from California last year because they specialize in manufacturing and fabrication of high-purity quartz products for the semiconductor industry, so another Intel relationship. The stories about Honda's network are just starting to spring up, still in pretty general terms, but saying same things. We need housing, we need spots for suppliers, we need infrastructure, we need broadband, we need all those things that Yellow Springs has been working on. So it's not just stuff that I made up on my head. You know, it's out there, and other communities are working really hard to attract these suppliers, to attract jobs, to attract the housing, and we don't want to be left behind on this. So I can answer questions, but what I'd like to do is have Michael come up. Michael has some direct connections to Intel that I think you might find helpful.
Great video, Ben.
Yeah.
I don't think I need to say anything, but I will. So, I'm Mike Slaughter. I'm part of a subcommittee that has developed a series of presentations and videos and handouts to promote our village. My professional life has been as an electrical engineer, primarily as a test equipment supplier to semiconductor manufacturers such as Intel. We've currently invited Intel to a We Are Open for Business presentation and a tour of our village. Intel will be looking for a workforce made up of current Ohio residents and transfers from existing facilities. The workforce of engineers and technicians in some of the recent publications will be making in excess of $100K. We want these young professionals to consider our village as a place to live and work. Intel's operations will depend on hundreds of small, medium, and large local businesses as suppliers of services and materials that range from security, warehousing, chemicals, test equipment, hardware, and software support, as Lisa mentioned. We intend to promote our residential and commercial space availability in addition to the unique things our village offers. In addition, we're going to reach out to other manufacturers such as Honda and some of the others in the general area. I believe now is the time to promote our village for this new economy, so I'm pretty excited about moving forward with all these presentations and videos and ideas. So, any questions?
Thanks, Michael.
I guess I have a question. So when you think about these new industries that you just talked about, can you say a little more about the degree to which you think these are sort of opportunities for current villagers versus, like, I think you call them transfers? Like, to what degree are these like jobs that people who live here might pursue versus that they'll bring in other people?
I was a supplier to Intel. I'm an engineer, but I supplied equipment. So what I see happening in the supplier relationship with Intel are small offices that could take up space and that we have available of sales and service, technician personnel type folks that either install equipment or maintain equipment at the Intel site, but they also do business at other places like Wright Pat or other places in Dayton. So they don't want to be in Columbus. They want to be centrally located in an area where they can get to different companies and do the work. So most of those are, I would say, new people coming to the community. Now, Intel is huge in workforce development. They want to train people to take these jobs, so they have relationships with just about all the colleges, particularly Central State, Wright State, and UD. Wright State has a wafer fab, and UD has a wafer fab where they can learn the processes and understand the processes that are required to make the chips up there. So who wants to jump in? It's where they are. They're currently doing it with 2-year degree programs. They've also invited local high school students that want to get in and learn for free what technology is and how it works. So I just kind of think it's a huge opening for everybody, but it's a great time for us to promote the village.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, if you don't mind, Mike, I don't know if you can answer this, either Mike or Lisa. What time frame are we looking at? Are you able to say, when these companies are going to actually be bringing people in, hiring people, and where we need to have available either homes for these folks to live in or space for these businesses to be able to set up shop?
I think the time is now, but we are early. The earlier the better. Intel has a website. They send out a newsletter. I've been getting copies of it. They're entertaining communities, talking to communities about things like water needs, workforce needs. The sooner we get out, the better we're able to grab those folks. Now, the plan is, I believe, 2 years out from production, and there'll be 2 wafer fabs there. They actually have enough ground to build 8 wafer fabs. So the sooner we get into this process, I've been on their site, you can actually click on available jobs and they'll pop up. There aren't a lot of them, but the sooner we can get ahead of talking up this town and what we offer and attracting some of those people that are engineers, because they may only go to the plant twice a week and they may work 3 days a week out of their house. And that's the new economy. So I believe now is the time, Kevin, the sooner the better, because other communities are doing it, as Lisa said right now. They're touting what they offer in terms of housing, quality of life, that kind of thing. So I think the 2-year delay is going to help us with Intel. The plant was supposed to be ready sooner, but like I said, the sooner the better we can start those conversations, especially with those people that may transfer out of places like California and Arizona that want to come to Ohio for whatever reasons. We need to latch onto those people now because we have housing available. And I think if they come in town and look at what we have to offer, they may be willing to jump ship and live in this particular area and then drive up there a couple days a week.
Gotcha. Great. Thank you. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Lisa.
Anything else?
Yeah, really quickly. So I know that there was some discussion about a $30,000 kind of marketing person, and I guess it was probably maybe October of last year. Would this position, would this director position absorb some of those responsibilities of the marketing person? And what kind of deliverables can we count on for contribute? I mean, it's public funds, so what can we look forward to? Like I said, what deliverables will we have if we do this?
Right. So in answer to your first question, yes, what we thought would be 15, 20 hours a week for marketing, once we realized we needed someone to do that and to sort of drive this whole process, that's when it got bumped. But it is a lot of marketing, a lot of meeting with folks, making those calls, making those drives, keeping the connections with the regional folks. I don't know that the board has, well, with the job description, there are some deliverables in there, and I don't have that right in front of me.
Yeah, under the YSDC goals.
Yeah. So I think the way that the job description is laid out, the first couple of key requirements are the main deliverables. Brian, do you have that? Can you read those?
Yeah, I mean, so we've got the, basically developing the network, maintaining and developing the network. We've got the piece around the marketing plan, and as Gavin referenced, we might make it marketing and development plan, and then incentive packages. Back when we had the Economic Sustainability Committee, we had started to develop incentives or an incentive package. We did some of that to try to keep, why am I spacing on the name, at Millworks? EnviroFlight, thank you. So developing that, and that's something that's obviously going to have to, the village is going to have to look at to see what we can actually do incentive-wise, so.
So in terms of something really concrete, I would expect that we start seeing some development at the CBE, and that we see wherever there's any additional infill that we can bring in these types of jobs. There's one group at Millworks that is they build supplies for clean rooms, which is what Intel uses, and they just consolidated from Clark County and Montgomery County to Yellow Springs.
Right.
So small place, but they're here, and I think that's the type of infill I would expect as a deliverable.
Okay, and then we would be able to measure that by check-ins?
Number of jobs, number of...
I mean, like, with the director position, like, how
would you find out?
Yeah.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I think, Johnny and then Trish and Brian are on the YSDC, so there are minutes, but I think if there's something more formal that you want, once a quarter, once a year.
I think that would be,
Yeah.
I mean, I think that would be, once a quarter would be excellent, especially considering that, So and another question, is this position being filled contingent upon the village funding it?
Yes.
Okay.
So, for example, I've got Intel contacts. I deal with a lot of semiconductor companies, but I think we need a point person. If Intel says I need more information, I have questions, whatever it may be, or I need that piece of data you sent me, one person to be the point to disseminate that versus 3 or 5 of us or whoever it may be. So that would be helpful. Plus, we can't get everywhere. There's follow-up meetings once you do a presentation to answer questions. They may say, come and visit us in Columbus, or whatever the situation that may arise to you.
And ideally, this person would be that person.
Go do that, and maybe take someone else.
Okay. Thanks.
Trish, do you have anything?
No, I was just rereading. I've only been to one meeting, so I'm new. Is it common for the other entities to pitch in? I mean, in the past, for other, I don't know what other expenditures there have been since this was organized?
Well, we were lucky that the YS Community Foundation funded Lisa Abel as an Encore Fellow to take on that director position. And I think that's where things started to get to gel more. Prior to that, I mean, it was basically a board-driven group. And so I think having somebody that's actually making sure that agendas are going out and making sure to structure activities. So for this organization, I mean, this is a new ask. It's been contemplated, which is why we put a certain amount in the Economic Development Fund. And I will say, for reference, prior we did have an economic development officer in the village, but that was actually before my time, so over 10 years ago.
And so maybe township would contribute as well, or is that?
Yes, so I wanted to give an update on that. So at the township's last meeting, they committed to contributing some amount to yet be decided, but it was discussed that they have $10,000 from their ARPA funds that have not been allocated. So that was the discussion. They asked to see what we were contributing because they wanted it to be proportional to our, the size of our budgets, recognizing that, people in Yellow Springs are in the township, so they get the value of economic development. So I think there's a lot of support, but they wanted to kind of see what we were doing to make their decision. So.
I need to go back to what Carmen said. So I'm all for the plan, and I would like to see the plan as part of the finances. But are we funding this for this year? Because if we don't fund it again next year, that person's not working. So are we saying as a council or as a body that we're going to keep funding this, and if so, for how many years?
Right.
That's another question.
So I'll just jump in on that point, because I think in the packet, it was the first time that was sort of clearly articulated, and I think it's healthy to be honest about it. That especially made me feel like, and I could be persuaded, but it made me feel like I'd love to see a plan, because I've worked around people who don't have clarity, and it can be really challenging when you don't have clarity of what your role is, and then especially when you know that there's a expectation that that this funding needs renewed. So especially if I guess I don't feel comfortable making like we commit to funding this for 3 years right off the bat, but I think the honest assessment of like, do you anticipate doing this if it's going well? I think that's a reasonable thing to ask and for us to communicate about. At least where I'm at right now is I'd love to see a more clear plan. I thought your question around deliverables, like when I looked at the job description, there's things on there that I could imagine what the deliverable would be, but I don't know for sure. And I think it doesn't need to take, I don't think, too much time to come up with what those deliverables and what the plan would be. And I guess just to be, the only other comments I'll make, just so I'm talking just to make the other comments, is I think there is sort of interplay between our economic development sort of goals and what's going on with the rest of our work. So the reason I asked you the question about how many of the jobs are likely to be sort of transplants versus jobs that are here is that I think the interplay with our affordability question is that so let's say if we had a revenue problem and we needed to have people come in so that we could have enough revenue to maintain our services, that is a different equation than trying to figure out how do we ensure that people who are living here can work, people that are working here and living here can afford to do so, which is, I think, the bigger priority question that we have in the village currently. So I'll just say, as somebody who started a couple years ago, a bunch of this stuff got set up in 2020. I look forward to learning more about what the goals are, how economic development sort of fits into our larger priorities, and I thought this was a good place to start with the conversation, but the fuller plan about the purpose and how it fits in with our goals would be a good step to take to get more alignment of what we're looking for in the future. That's where I was at. I was interested in what other folks thought on that. Like, do you want a plan? Do you want to approve it now? Do you want those three options? If folks don't mind weighing in on that, that would be great.
Well, I'll go ahead and step in.
Okay.
Again, I'm going to have to change the color of my hand. It's been up for a while. But, so to Dr. Slaughter's advice, Michael Slaughter's advice, we're dealing with a 2-year window here, probably, in terms of ramping up, getting the word out, etc. So I'd like to just at least put a pin in that. We're looking at maybe a 2-year window getting from where we are to nirvana. There's a phrase that's been tossed around a lot in other conversations, once in a lifetime, once in a generation. Well, I think this fits the bill more than anything else. The things that Honda, LG, Intel, Joby, and those companies that are coming into the state, setting up shop, I think those are the things that tend to happen once in a lifetime. And I think we definitely have to have the motivation to want to take advantage of that. Looking at some of the materials in the packet, there's no question that it has been council's intent to have an economic development arm, an entity to be able to do this work for us, and we've designated the Yellowstone Development Corporation to do that. And Development Corporation, just like we wanted to put the ball into particular entities' hands, YSDC is saying, okay, now we want to find a real live human being to do this work. And that's what they're asking for support of, and I think we ought to be fulfilling the commitments that we've already made in terms of wanting to provide a means of expanding economic development here in the village. I think it's important also from a due diligence perspective for us to expect that there would be a plan. The documents also say that both the village and YSDC were to collaborate to develop a plan. Whoever does the heavy lifting, the end result was there should be a plan to answer a lot of these questions. So I am inclined to support the financial request contingent, before, during, or after an actual plan, and agreed upon and approved plan that answers the questions about deliverables, Carmen's excellent question, and completing the question, any of the questions about the job description and what we look to get for the money that's being spent. Also, that plan should have a timeline to address Johnny's concern. But I will again go back to the fact that the big push needs to happen, it sounds like, for about 2 years. Thank you.
I want to speak to something really quickly, again, with being responsible for public funds. I would feel comfortable if we had a plan before, or at least an outline of what, we have a job description, but what specifically are we looking at? This person will contact X, and X by this time, and then report, back to YSDC. What does it look like? And so it seems really arbitrary, just for me, in my opinion, to be 100% on board with this request without something more concrete.
Thanks,
And I was just going to comment on the pay rates. So if we're looking at somebody doing this for, let's just say 30 hours a week, it says 20 to 30, that's $25 an hour. We need somebody that's really savvy and that has experience to step into this role. I mean, this is not, these are heavy hitters. We can't have, somebody that has zero experience. I would be more comfortable at a $32 rate, which is what we get the $10,000 from the township. I think that's going to give us a more qualified candidate. But that's just something to consider. And plus they're going to be paying self-employment tax, so that will factor into anyone that's considering the job. I mean, that's a considerable amount off of that rate.
So yeah, I'll highlight a few things.
Sure. Can I just ask real quick?
Yeah.
So do you mind, I don't know if I'm allowed to, but so do you have, where are you at on were you kind of a yes with the plan, or a plan and then discuss it? Are you leaning away?
I would like to see a plan first, personally. I just think that's the right thing to do. But I am, definitely a proponent of having somebody in place to take advantage of these opportunities.
Cool. Thank you. Brian?
Okay. So a couple things I want to highlight. It's in the letter, but I do want to make sure we're all aware that one of the first things that the YSDC did was facilitate the sale of the former firehouse. And while I don't have numbers yet to quantify the ROI on that, I am downtown all the time, and I hear what our local businesses and restaurants say about what happens when there's a show at the firehouse. That was significant. Again, I want to highlight the Department of Energy $100,000 prize for community solar that will be hopefully parlayed into a second prize for an additional $200,000. So these are big deal things, and I guess this is where the organization has already shown that it can do some things with a lot of volunteer work, and of course Lisa's been volunteering for over a year now in the position. If we don't approve a position, I'm going to be really curious how we're going to develop this plan, but keep in mind what the ORC says is that we as a council may commission a plan. or we may, ask for a plan, and then we commission that. And to me, a commission means you're going to pay somebody, all right? So unless, a lot of volunteers are willing to put in significant time, I think without a paid person, that's going to be problematic. And the last thing I want to mention is, in terms of continual funding, I totally agree that a one-year commitment at this point makes sense. And if we don't see results in a year, then we got to really question, what that's going to look like. But I've had conversations with Johnny and with others about, if this doesn't work out, but I think we're in a position that we've got great people on the board that it will. If it doesn't work out, we could have an in-house position again, or we could talk about that. There's been talks about potentially collaborating with the chamber, where there's crossover work. But I think, as Kevin said, we committed to the YSDC being our economic arm. If we're not willing to fund at this point when we're poised for success, then I'm not sure what we're talking about.
So I guess just a follow-up on that. So as somebody who wasn't on council, the commitment was, there wasn't a lot of specificity to it. It was like, we're starting a CIC, but the designation included there's never been specificity, right?
Right, except we did, close down our Economic Sustainability Commission. So we said,
Okay.
Yep.
So maybe this is a question for y'all. Is it, I guess I was imagining the plan as not being like that would be like a deal killer, or that it would be like I guess I was thinking, it seems like there are some volunteers, including council members, that are engaged with the process, that there could be some work done to sort of say, here's what the deliverables would look like, here's what the timeline would look like, without having to do a significant, have a significant undertaking. Am I misunderstanding that, or does that feel like it's
That's
a reason?
what I was.
Well, to me, a flip side of that is having that director in place to be working on this with the board. And keeping in mind that Lisa's done on August 9th. So, she's mentioned that, she's moving back from that position. So then we will not have, a director.
So, just to tail off that, Brian, when I've been on the Community Foundation Board for quite a while, and when the board did its strategic plan several years ago, it decided to hire an executive director, which is a big step. It was a heavy lift funding-wise. And then what happened was the director came in, and of course, Jean Marie's been just awesome, but she looked at the strategic plan and said, well, this is what I can do. I can do some of these things that you want me to do, but I think there's a lot of other things I should be doing. And so we had to sort of mold that plan to her capabilities and her idea of where the foundation could go. Thank goodness we did. So I'm just saying that we could do a draft, we could do an outline, we could do something like that, but I would say, and I'm someone who wants to only do a version once, I don't want to come back 5 times with different drafts, but I would say we could do something rough, but then let us post the position. Just hire
Yes, like a draft, an outline, something. Just
Okay.
that's the only thing
Okay.
that I was talking about, just
Okay.
something.
The perfectionist in me is having trouble with that, but I get you. Thank you.
I agree with, I think, Brian, you and I talked about it. Even if the position, that would be one of the first things that they would have, that would be a requirement, that they would help create the goals on what they need to be able to get done.
Yep.
As part of the first comeback from council, we have, this is what I'll be working on, this is how we're moving forward.
Okay.
So anyway, so if it wasn't clear, yes with plan.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think I was in the plan, if I wasn't clear, I was in the plan, then discuss. So I think I got a 3 in the plan, then discuss, a 1 yes with the plan, and a 1, were you a yes with the plan too? Okay, and 2 yes with the plan. So I guess, I think I'm hearing the majority is would like to see some plan, but with, I think, reasonable sort of expectations and a draft, not a, or like a first step, but not some, massive process to do it. Does Did I hear that right, or are there any other comments?
Well, I'm just hoping a council member's going to change their mind, because our delay is going to mean delaying the position posting, is going to mean delaying the township's commitment. So, yeah.
I hear you, but I guess I just look at it, a wise person once told me that, the lack of having a plan now, that's not our, like, there isn't clear information about what the purpose is, and especially with the expectation of long-term funding, I think it's reasonable that we would get some information. So I mean that, and we talked about this a couple meetings ago. There could have been information that was brought before this meeting. So it's not like this is I don't think it's an unreasonable thing that we're asking for some clarity on an institution that's had not a lot of communication and clarity about what the purpose has been for quite some time. Is that unfair?
I think we've got the documents in the packet that explain the purpose, and we've gotten lots of information about what's been done. So,
Yeah.
so I guess I will say I'll push back on that a little bit.
Okay.
We've never asked for a plan before. We never did it with our Economic Sustainability Commission either. So I'm not saying it's a bad ask, which is why I'm yes with a plan, so.
And also, just touching on something that Kevin stated when we were talking about the solicitor's contract. What are we doing with public funds and having due diligence and asking, this is public funds. And so I don't think that asking for a plan and then moving forward, none of us are a no. And it can be, and that's what I'm requesting, is an outline. I don't need details, but I need more details, me personally, more details than are in the job description, and a little loose timeline. That's it.
Okay, so I think Brian's question is real, which is, has anybody changed their mind?
Well, I think what
Yeah,
what I would
sure.
submit, I'm sorry for parting in. What I would submit is it sounds like Lisa Abel was, not to put words in her mouth, but in agreement with, forming an outline or a structure that admittedly perhaps should be fleshed out more once a person is in the position. So, why don't we sort of split the difference and submit that for our next meeting, if we get an outline that answers everybody's questions, then we'll approve it, because we should not be expecting a fully fleshed out plan in the best case scenario. And I think what the example that Lisa gave was probably close to the best case scenario. Let the person show up, bring their expertise and their thoughts to the table. But in the meantime, just sort of lay out, what you want to do, how you're going to go about doing things. And then if we're just committing to saying, okay, you show us that, we check the box, we'll approve it at the very next meeting. In terms of delay, that's just 2 weeks. We do have a meeting in 2 weeks, right? I'm not going to speak on this perfect. Yeah, we'll have a meeting in a couple of weeks and then move forward. If I agree, Brian, with what you're saying, that it just say we may, but I think the fact that there is talk about a plan has created the expectation that we ought to have a bit more guidance and direction and something that's tending towards answering our questions. So again, why don't we say that? I'm not making a motion to that point, because I want y'all to discuss it. But I would submit that if there's something added to what we have already, which is indeed a great deal of information, and that is an outline of a plan that can be fleshed out later, we could accept that, and everyone who has some questions have to sort of submit those, perhaps, so that the folks putting together the outline can begin to speak to those. And I would submit in 2 weeks, we'll be saying yes, 100%.
Okay.
And I could absolutely say yes now with the promise of a plan. But at the end of the day, I'm going to be a yes no matter what.
Can I just make a suggestion that might sort of split the difference a little bit? possibly if you added a section that said, an expectation in provision of the funding is that there will be a plan developed in collaboration with village leadership and YSDC stakeholders within the first 3 months, because the plan itself, contingencies required for that plan are that the plan is developed in agreement with village leaders. So it's almost like this person can't develop a plan outside of the relationship. So if you set a time frame that allows for that relationship to at least move a plan forward, something that council can be looking at in the first several months, if you added a section to that effect, I think it sort of addresses both of those concerns. It doesn't.
No, just an outline. Like, we're just, I mean, like, me personally, I'm just asking yes to that, of course, after the person is hired. No one's saying no, but can we have some more information? Can we have the outline? Can we have a couple of pages? Can we submit questions to Lisa to be answered? Or is that like, I don't understand what's going on. Like, and then, so in 2 weeks, A, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, B, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then have the opportunity to check it out and then vote on it. Is that completely unreasonable?
I don't know, Amy, is that a you thing? I mean, there's some fairly specific descriptions of what a plan is and how one develops the plan, so I can't answer Carmen's.
Yes, and I can provide some examples, or you can find them on Google, of other examples of other community CIC's plans as they've been pulled together. But what I'm hearing from the majority of the board is looking for an outline of a plan, not the plan itself.
For this position?
For this,
for this specific
oh, okay, all right.
position.
I think I was hearing some other things elsewhere about just an outline of what the plan might look like for the for the YSDC in general. Regardless.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
For the position?
You were talking about the broader
I was talking
plan?
about the broader for YSDC in
okay.
general.
Yeah.
And I'm for the broader for the YSDC as well. I mean, the greater ownership would be in the hands of the position, but it's not expounding the position description necessarily, but just acknowledging that the person whoever fills the position would be carrying the weight of doing the work. But just that we have something in place. And again, I could say yes today and move on, quite honestly.
Okay, then we are at a point of decision making here. It
Yeah,
sounds like
that's
there's a resolution on the table. It's been motioned and seconded, right? Yes. And so one of two things can happen at this point. Whose motion was it, Judy?
Stokes.
So if we could withdraw the motion, and then there could be some movement by council to push the resolution to the next meeting, but he would have to do that, it was his motion, or we could, council will vote on it, and the resolution's either up or down, but this is not a one bite at the apple type of thing. If the general will is that it comes forward for the next agenda, then it'll be on the next, it'll just roll to the next agenda, even after having been voted down tonight, if it goes that way. Are you comfortable with that, Judy?
Yeah.
So, or the third sort of more, unwieldy option would be to make some type of changes here in the moment, which I believe is what you were recommending.
That was me with the unwieldy, yes.
Yes, of course, right. We expect no less. To add some language to it that specifies what you're expecting to see, but you'd be approving the expenditure with this understanding. So,
Okay. So,
And I like Judy's thought about, making those, the verbiage to sort of tie the expectation, with the approval for the support.
okay. So I'll just, if we want to do the bring it back in 2 weeks thing, then what do we have to do?
you can do one of two things. You can either withdraw the motion and just push it to the next agenda, or you can go ahead and vote on the resolution. And if it goes down, then...
But so Kevin would have to withdraw it, right?
Yes, it's...
Okay, so Kevin, for whatever it's worth, I think I'm hearing three people.
I withdraw.
Okay.
I withdraw my motion.
Okay. Any other questions? And then we're assuming this is going to go on future agenda, and then hopefully y'all got relatively clear guidance, and then I guess I would just recommend that, the sooner you can send a draft to get feedback on, and if there's questions that people know where to reach out, that would be great.
I think that's absolutely necessary.
Great.
The last meeting, we put this forward under a letter and under citizen comments, and there were several requests for information which were filled and part of the packet. So I want this to be like the last piece of information you need. So we'll pull together something as quickly as we can, and we need some feedback pretty quickly so that we're not coming back in another 2 weeks, and another 2 weeks, because there's something else and something else, okay?
Okay, I mean, we've only had a little bit of back and forth here, so like, I don't...
I'm just
yeah.
saying, it feels like there wasn't a request for anything like this to provide to you tonight. That's all.
Well, maybe I was being too nice about it, but at the last meeting, I was asking some big picture questions about the purpose of the YSDC, and they're not all clearly identified in the information. I'm assuming that's because, based on my conversations with folks, there's not a complete alignment and agreement internally of what the YSDC is for.
All right.
So I think it's reasonable to have some back and forth about it.
No, I don't disagree.
Yeah, okay.
I'm just saying, okay, you get a plan, you get an outline, you get a timeline, and then you say, oh, there's something else we need. That's what I mean. That's what okay.
And what I will add to that, Lisa, and I appreciate your comments.
Asking for public funds.
If I have questions, it is upon me to submit those concerns right now. Not next week, not at the next meeting. Because I'm supposed to submit all that and give YSDC an opportunity to speak to it in terms of the plan. So what I would say to council is, this is our chance to do as much fleshing out as we want to do. So, like we talked about a similar situation earlier, it is now incumbent upon us to take responsibility for collaborating, as the documents have already said. It's a collaborative effort between council and YSDC for this plan. So this is our time over the next few days. Y'all can decide amongst yourselves when you want to have get all the inputs in, but it's certainly got to be to Lisa and her team soon enough for them to respond. So you have concerns, get them to them so we can have a response. And I'd like for us to be able to put this thing to bed at our next meeting.
So I'd be happy to be the gadfly on that one. So I'll send everyone out, hey, this is what I heard folks asking for. I need to have it funnel back through me, but that way I can communicate with Lisa, and if Lisa's not hearing things, I can then reach back out to you folks. And that sound reasonable?
Yeah, so how about by close of business Wednesday? So give us a couple days to respond with anything by Judy, or to reach out to, I guess it sounds like Lisa, or Brian, I guess you'd be the point. Lisa?
Yeah.
Sound okay to everybody?
Yep.
Okay.
Sounds good to me, thank you.
Okay, I think we're moving forward. Is that okay? All right, so now we move to citizen concerns. Are there any citizen concerns? This is the part where if there's not something on the agenda, 3 minutes for sharing anything. Okay. Next up, sorry? Yeah.
I was just here more,
Come on up if, yeah.
Amy just showed me what was in the packet, so I'm catching up here on, and this is on the LIHTC proposal?
That's
Yeah.
on the agenda.
Yes, it's on the agenda, so
Yep.
never mind, we're here.
Okay. Okay, last call on citizen concerns. All right, special reports. There are no special reports, so we're just cruising through now.
Yeah.
Okay, old business, grant application process discussion.
Manager's report.
Oh, I was just going so fast. Okay. Next up, the manager's report. Johnny, take it away.
I'll try to do this fast for you. First thing is Corey Street and Allen in front of the Comedy Club and in the alley is scheduled to be repaired July 16th and 17th. It has actually been scheduled, weather pending, but that's the dates that we got today. Sidewalk in front of 225, the wall come down, it will be poured at 6 o'clock in the morning. I have to actually inspect it on the way home, so don't let me forget that. Meg is extremely busy. She has got more permits in the last couple of weeks than she has for a month or so. So she is really getting a lot of new things coming in. We have ordered the 3 benches for the leaf project, and I actually believe they come in. There actually was in the police barn this week, so as soon as Tanner gets back from vacation, we'll probably get those installed as well. Springs Meadow 2, they're doing some major housing work back there. I have requested more information on your letter. I've got one back from DDC. I'm waiting for Springs Meadow. They have went through their whole chain, and I'm waiting to respond to it. Anything until I get all the documentation together. Big news for us, the water tower. We had a pre-construction meeting, and we start draining the south tower on Monday. They will be starting to mobilize on Monday as well, so you'll see some things going on there. They will be blasting. The tower failed, so we'll be doing the option. They will be robot blasting it. It is self-contained, so there won't be particles flying over everybody's neighborhoods and the dog park. You may see some, but not as much. So they are expecting 6 to 8 weeks, weather pending. So hopefully we'll get that one done and get it back and going, and then they'll be doing divers in the other tank, or in the north tank, later in the year for the final inspection, for the 1-year warranty inspection. We did receive good bids for the water meters. We will be bringing back the recommendation July 15th for council's approval to be able to release the contract. Rose Belzell will be here to speak to anything about the meters you guys could ever want to ask. She knows it all. So she has done a fantastic job getting this underway, making sure it's everything that the village needs and everything that will make it a better product for us at the end. We welcomed Elise. I'm not going to try to pronounce the last name. Maybe I will. Garduchla.
Oh,
I cannot. Is that rough?
Oh, that's rough.
We call her Elise G. We welcomed her today. She started. She's getting set up. She's going to be the new project lead, and then she will be reaching out to the council members to start on the planning and the strategic stuff. So we're going to get her in the trenches first. We got some things in the office to get done. She's going to help some other people, and then we'll set up meetings with council members, and we'll start going down to see what we can do to get the strategic planning going and moving forward. The electric grant, the chargers, I did check with AMP on that. I actually installed some more information. The match is 20%. We can pull out if it does not, if we say it's too much and we can't do it. We just have to let them know by Friday. They will pay for the engineering. Ours is basically the material cost and some of the labor costs to get the infrastructure changed. We can do one charger, or we can do 100 chargers. We need to let them know what sites we want them at.
But the 20% match is cash, right? Not in kind?
It is cash. It's
Okay.
20% cash from the electric fund is where that would be coming from.
Cool. But we would decide how many we want, and we can
Correct.
control that.
Correct. So if we wanted to, we would say we wanted 6 and we want level 2 chargers like we have out there, we would just let them know where we would want them, and then they would start getting the engineering and material costs and all that for us. And that is due, I believe, Brian, the 15th, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's the 12th. So we just need to be able to let them know that we're interested. Not that we have to have everything to them, we're just interested so they can put us down on the chart that we're interested.
So do you want to do a quick temperature check on that right now?
I am, yes.
Okay. Do you mind if we just run down, Trish? Do you have any, just you're the end of the table. I don't know. You're going to get called on first.
I don't have any specific questions.
Okay. Are you interested? Are you not interested?
I'm interested.
Okay. Brian?
Yep.
Carmen?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm interested too. I just 20% of what? I just
Don't
have,
forget Kevin.
Oh, Kevin too? Kevin? What about you?
I'm waiting. Yes, I'm interested.
Okay.
Thank you for thinking about it.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm just interested in the question of 20% of what. I just have no, but if you're saying we don't know yet, but, so I could imagine being interested in a lot of these, but I'd love to have some more information to see if that makes sense. Okay. So does that give you
yes,
enough
it does.
clarity?
It
Okay.
does.
And Johnny?
Yes.
If you could please,
You muted yourself.
All right, I got you. Okay. You mentioned level 2 in terms of the tax charges. If you could provide us some information about the spectrum of the types of things that we could get, what a level 1 gets you, what a level 2 gets you, et cetera.
We would not want to put in a level 1. Level 1's residential. So it's basically for one car at their house. The level 2 is what we have out here in the Bryant Center. And then you can go to the 480 volt, which is a fast charging system that they have like in parking lots at the Myers and Kroger's and stuff like that over by the Fairfield Commons.
Yeah, so I do have one question now that I'd like for it to get answered in terms of how the grant would work. Can we have a mixture? Obviously, we wouldn't want any level 1s, but I could see, some level 2s and maybe one level, or whatever you call it, for the big guy.
We can have a mixture of them. If we're gonna do the big 480 volt one, we want to put it down in the cemetery parking lot, I believe. That's what we had talked about. So when we prepare for the Clifton connector, that's a centralized location they can charge and ride their bikes.
Okay, good enough, great stuff, thank you.
Grinnell Road, another, for the county, they are, on Wednesday, they're going to start grinding the groove joints, and then they will try to do the overlay the following week, weather pending. They are overlaying from the wastewater treatment plant all the way out to Clifton. Myself and Tanner, along with our choice one, we recommended not doing our side of it because we don't like the overlay. So we want to wait and get ours ground down, so we'll bring it back next year for some more. I'm going to try to submit for the OPWC on some blacktopping, so that will be one that we'll add into the blacktopping. So we'll grind down 3/4 of an inch and put back probably 1.5 inches. The other thing it does is allows Greene County Parks and Trails, if we grind down, they do not have to redo their entrance ramps or their bicycle path for because if you overlay it, they have to go back and they have to redo theirs to make
Where it
it
crosses
ADA
Grinnell?
compliant. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes. So the other thing I want to mention, we got Porter, he's doing a great job. Light Up Navajo Nation guys come back. They are pumped to come in and talk next week. I dropped them off on Friday. I picked them up on the following Friday, and that's all we've talked about. I would suggest if anybody wants to go downstairs afterwards, next time you're at the Bryant Center, they actually had a Navajo lady send a piece of pottery. And there is a card and information to where if people wanted to buy pottery from her, she makes it all right there. There's some pictures down there. They've got a hard hat in a case. It's in a showcase down in the lobby on the first floor. The lady she just wants to get her artwork out there, and it is phenomenal. They watched her make it the day that she was there. So Ben was like, hey, if you want to send it to us, we got a display case. So she did. She sent it back. So you'll see some more of these pictures. I don't want to give out too much because Ben is actually working on the website, Ben G, and then him and Ben Sparks is working on more information. You'll see more drone footage and information, but it was a great time. I'll just tell you that. They learned a lot. They had a phenomenal time. They actually hooked up 4 people. So
Nice.
I'll let them have their fun time because they were excited to come in. While we was in Navajo Nation and while I was on vacation, the other 4 people, they wound up having a water main break over in Antioch. They got that taken care of. So we have the depth in our crews now, thanks to council, that everybody jumped in, they got it done, and we was able to keep moving forward. So we will be doing the water meters, hopefully, once we pass the resolution, you guys authorize me to go into a contract. Hopefully by, I'm going to say October, you'll start seeing water meters going in. They have the water meters in stock, so we'll be moving that forward. Brian, I think you asked for the hefty
Yeah, I saw that.
recycle in the manager's report, so that is in there as well, and I need to go back because I forgot something in my report, and that is Lawson Place. We have a situation there that we need some more parking. That is what I put in your packet for a bid for that for $24,780 to add 14 more spots. We're max capacity. We're fully rented out at the Lawson Place. Some have 1 car, some have 2 cars, and we have 16 cars parked in parking spots, and then everybody's parking behind them. And we've had some that have got dinged and just flat ran into because there's nowhere to park. There is no on-street parking on that driveway or on Lawson. So I'm asking to see if we can use $24,780 to make an additional 14 spots there.
In the front, toward the, where,
It
how,
would
where?
be towards Limestone Street.
Okay.
We own right where that sidewalk is.
Yeah, yeah.
If you're familiar, that sidewalk would go away. It's a sidewalk to nowhere.
Yeah, yeah.
And it would
The
go
sidewalks to
further
nowhere.
towards it would go towards the neighbor's
Okay,
houses.
I got you.
So
And Johnny, how many spots are there currently?
There's 16.
And how many units?
16.
Okay. Are we going to put bike parking in?
We will.
Okay.
Great ask. Because I actually think we have it on the other side, but I will verify that. Yes.
So Johnny, are you asking for,
I'm asking for the approval to spend $24,780 out of the affordable housing line. I do not have it budgeted in the Lawson Place.
Going down the line again, I'll start with Kevin so I don't forget. Kevin, you got any feedback, questions on the Lawson Place request?
No, not about Lawson Place in particular. But Johnny, I'm hesitant to mention the text that you sent me. Do we want to consider, I'm not being secretive.
No, we'll do it later.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I approve.
Sounded pretty secret
Right.
there. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I'll start, Carmen, what about you? Thoughts on the Lawson Place piece?
Oh, I mean, and Lawson, the parking, yes, and that it comes out of affordable housing, is that the question?
Yes.
I think so.
Yeah.
So we confirmed at our finance committee meeting that there's 67,000 and some
gonna be my
change
question, yeah.
in the affordable housing fund right now.
So that was a yes. Brian, thoughts?
Not a big fan of more parking, of course, but I'm a yes.
Okay. Trish? Okay. Yeah, and I guess the only other question I had is just, I'm assuming that we think this is essentially adding value to the property? Correct.
It is.
So I guess as long as we're thinking it's not some, that there's not a loss in that way.
And I want to clarify, we'll be bringing this back as a resolution. I just wanted to get a temperature check on council if we bring it back. So to come back as a resolution to be able to spend this money.
Yeah. I think the only other flag for me is like we've talked about in finance committee, like just checking in about what's going on with Lawson Place more broadly. And so I don't know. it's another one of these areas where like it'd be nice to know what the plan is. Like where's the, where are we, where are we going with this?
That's what happens when you have municipalities in property management.
Well, this is.
You don't find out that something's an emergency until someone's car's getting dinged.
Amy Kemper, or I'm not sorry, Amy Blankenship and myself and Erica was actually talking about Lawson Place prior to our meeting tonight. So there is more to come, and you're correct, we do need to get a final plan on what we're doing moving forward as far as managing it and how we're doing that. The other thing that I want to mention is the CBE. Allison is back in and she is doing some more marketing, but one thing that she really thinks we need, and I agree with her 100%, is a sign out there that says we're open for business, and she gave me a sample for you guys to look at, to be able to put it out there, put a light on it for Center for Business and Education. That way it's marking where it's at and people will know that we're open for business. And she's got a budget number of like $7,000 for that.
And if we did this, we wouldn't actually be paying the taxes, right?
Correct. No, yes.
Okay.
Yes. And the other thing is the permit fee, we would pay for it versus paying her to put it in there, we would actually pay for it.
Right.
But yes, the taxes would not be on there as well.
Okay.
Does anybody feel like starting? I don't know. Brian, I'm just looking at you. Do you have, is this one you're asking for feedback on?
Yes.
Okay. Brian, do you have thoughts on this?
I think it makes sense.
Okay. Trish, got any thoughts on this?
No, I agree. I think
Okay. Kevin, thoughts on this?
I agree with all of Johnny's assessment.
Okay. Carmen, any thoughts on this?
Should have been out there.
Okay. I don't know anything about whether or not it makes a difference to have a brick thing versus having two big signs, but if that's what y'all think makes a difference, then I'm game.
Okay. And then, Brian, I wanted to highlight the water treatment plant. You'll see that there's 45% loss. We had 4 hydrant flow tests, and we've been installing the brand new water mains.
Okay.
So they fill the mains, and then they have to flush the mains out another week. That is the reason why it's at 45% right now.
Yeah, that makes sense, because I know we do that every year, so, yep. Okay, cool.
All right. Any other manager report? Sure. I don't know. Sure. You get the loosey-goosey guy today, so come on up.
He's on Zoom.
I heard that. I'm Emily Seibel. I'm the Executive Director of Yellow Springs Home Inc. And I just wanted to say that I want to just continue to extend the offer to sit down and do some strategic planning about requests that we might make of the Affordable Housing Fund for the year. I'm not discouraging or its use for Lawson Place, but just when you talked about having a plan, I think we would love to meet with the full council or the housing committee or however it makes sense to structure that, but to sit down and say these are all the possible things that might come up through the course of this year, and we could talk about next year too. So some of them would be opportunities to help leverage additional funds from outside for a specific thing. Some things maybe you would have requests of us that we work on. So, but just kind of an opportunity to do some more collaborative joint planning around what the plan is. We're very, very open to that. So I just wanted to share.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay.
And I guess, I don't know, I assume y'all thought about it the same way. I look at the Affordable Housing Fund as like a thing that we did some general budgeting at the beginning of the year, and then if there are other priorities that come up, this isn't like now it's used for this, so there's no more money. Like we have, we can move other money there. But that's a good flag, and I don't know, something we could check in about, seeing if there's, interest and ability to set up a meeting sometime. Okay. Okay, any other manager reports, questions?
I have a few. Yes. So, Johnny, the thing about the bench removal that was in the manager's report, what's going on there? There was like several...
They've been removing old ones and putting in new ones.
Okay.
If you'll notice, I can't remember, I think it was it you? Lisa had asked me about one at Bill Duncan. She thought somebody may have been trying to steal it, but that's actually our guys. They're replacing
Okay.
benches. That's actually true. They have been stolen.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in their time, we're getting some 2x8s. We're sanding them down during rain days or during hot days. And then we have switched a different style bench. They go out, they pull out one, they put a brand new one in.
Okay, cool.
So,
Yeah, well, I was hoping that
Yes.
they were being replaced as well. And I think I asked you most of the others. Oh, what was the housing meeting with the Little Art in Greene County that was listed under housing? Or the meeting that was listed under housing, right up top?
oh, that was and the Little Art?
Yeah.
They're asking Greene County for a community investment grant.
Okay.
For the new sign
Oh,
or the redo of the front of the sign.
okay, so not really housing?
No.
Okay.
Economic.
Gotcha. And then, yeah, the other things I can talk to you off. Well, I would like to understand a little bit more about what our rules are around amplification. So, because I thought we had it codified, for example, that street musicians can't amplify. So, I guess maybe if Chief Burge could just kind of like put a little memo together or something. So, okay, thanks.
So let me back up one place. Please, Big can't put this thing any more places. Sign up for Civic Plus. It's a great notification, and yes, we are going to notify you about everything that's not an emergency on that platform multiple times. So please sign up for it.
Right, cool. And I said it was the last thing, but I forgot to mention, but since you mentioned the Clifton Yellow Springs connector, we did get $20,000 from Rep. Dean through his office in the state capital budget for the Yellow Springs Clifton connector. Not that much, but that could possibly be part of the match if we were putting chargers at that cemetery parking lot. That might be an ideal thing to do. Okay, any other questions? Yeah?
I know it's not allowed at this time, but Riley Dixon, YS News. I know in the past couple of meetings, the parking signs have been on the manager's report. I didn't see it on this agenda, so I was waiting to bring it up in case it was getting brought up in the manager's report. But I guess I'm still curious to know where that money is going and what it's dog-eared to be used for. I am seeing more and more people on weekends scanning it and putting money into something. And I guess I'm just curious to know where that scan money is going and what it might be spent on.
Right now, it is sitting at the Community Foundation. We're not going to pull out $267, but it will go to the general fund to be used for the streets.
Cool. Thanks.
Okay, any other questions? All right, so we're moving on to old business. I'm gonna maybe see if we can make up a few minutes here. You tell me. So on the grant application process discussion, I'm wondering if we could start with council members, if you've got questions after seeing the grant application process chart that we also have printed out here in front of us. Is it okay if I skip to the end for a second? I'll just throw out, my questions were, what happens when we don't have goals? So like right now, we don't have clear goals or priorities, and then what is significant? So I think just some kind of, that's in the blue square over here. So
Well,
what's the amount?
We're still
that's
using
significant?
existing village goals. You did not establish new ones, so we're relying on the 2023.
Okay, so y'all are thinking about it as we haven't changed the ones we have, so we're using the ones from before. Okay, so we should revisit that conversation.
And then significant is, at this point, I just put it as greater than $500. You can put any number you want in there.
Other questions folks have?
I do, real quick. So just, I'm looking at this, and colors and lines are good, but I need that question answered. So there's an NEA grant that's floating around out there, so National Endowment for the Arts grant. So I found the grant, but I would give that to who to make application?
Village manager.
Okay.
Basically, the way that what this process contemplates is you would come in and say, here's what I'd like to do, village manager. You would determine, okay, it fits this, it's that, it's this. Okay, then it's a big match, so we go this way. It's no match, you can go that way, but it fits our goals, and et cetera. Go forth.
Okay.
Let me give you a prime example of what we're trying to solve. We have art that's being given to the village. We've raised money for it. It's given to the village back in '92, and now all of a sudden, now it needs reconditioned. How are we paying for it? Who's paying for it? Who owns it? So we're trying to make sure that we have all that covered. If it's going to require staff to do something 10 years from now, we need to plan for it now. So.
Oh, okay. I think that maybe answers my question, but I was just asking about a future grant for, it's a future grant for a future project from the National Endowment for the Arts for not specifically reconditioning. Do we have art that needs to be reconditioned?
I'll talk to you later about it.
Please do, because there's funding available for that.
Library,
Yeah, okay. Oh,
the tree book.
I got you.
The tree.
yeah, let's talk.
Yep.
Kevin, Trish, Brian, anybody have any? Yeah?
Yeah, I just, didn't answer the question, $500 is the threshold for significant, and I just wondered if we were good with that, is that the right number? To make a decision one way or the other about?
That's good.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind it being higher, but I mean, that's,
Well, so greater than $500. So like $300, you don't have to worry about it. Greater than 1,000, greater than, what's a good number for you?
it sounds like there's not anybody has a problem with 500, so just leave it there.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm okay, I just want to make sure, since, I didn't know where it came from, until Judy responded, but now
Cool.
I did.
So on here where it says, grant does not include significant match or ongoing labor staff cost. So, with a lot of these, there's a reporting requirement. So are you saying if there's any reporting requirement, or, that the staff is going to have to be involved at some point? Should we limit, put a number of hours to it? Or is that going to be at your discretion?
I think it'd be at my discretion, because even if it's a $500 grant, we got to figure out how much staff time we're going to have to get $500.
I agree with that. But with even if it is $500 and it's not, the application process is a very, voluminous, then you still will have like a report that's required. There's still a few steps towards the end, so, okay.
So I think based on our previous conversations, there's been support from council members for moving this ahead. So I guess, are you planning on having like a write-up? You wanted to sort of give us an idea of sort of conceptually how it would work, and then you're planning on moving this toward a resolution with or I don't know, toward legislation, or what happens now?
What do you think?
Trying to save myself getting up. But since I am getting up, I think we should all acknowledge do these amazing flow charting skills. She was
I
very,
use technology.
She was very
I would just
impressed.
like that acknowledged, please. Thank you.
we have a resolution on the agenda, a future agenda item resolution on this topic for authorizing the village manager designee to apply for grant funds. So I would see this policy that you're looking at right now tied into that resolution, right, and then brought up on a future agenda so that we can tie it all up in a pretty little bow.
Sound good, everybody? Anybody have questions?
Go ahead.
No, I just said it sounds good.
So the only other thing is, if I read this flow chart correctly, I mean, it basically means any grant that staff brings up is coming to council, is that right?
No.
Because the way it flows is,
Well, but
if
you
it's
have been.
staff or partner
That
agent.
happens.
Okay.
Managers reports, ongoing, I mean,
well, because I remembered when we originally talked about this, we also said wanting to have some flexibility if choice one sees something and it doesn't have a match,
yep,
but I'm not seeing that
they're
here.
hurrying down that left side there.
Huh?
They're the purple ones, like.
Right, but that's what I'm saying, but it comes to council. Okay. I just want to make sure that's the intent.
That's an excellent point, Brian, because we did talk about wanting to be able to apply for grants, and the resolution that I was just talking about that's on the, sort of teed up on a future agenda makes reference to authorizing the village manager to apply. So I do think on that purple side, maybe we consider it being more about the resolution coming to council for matching grants and acceptance, not necessarily application. What do you think?
Okay, so like, yep.
There might be something in between there, between now and then.
Yep. I'll do that.
So my only 2 cents then would be, we definitely, so just so we're all on the same page, we definitely want to see things that have a match. And then if they don't have a match, I'd be okay with the idea that there's discretion, but I still would like communication. So we don't have to approve it, but if you could tell us, that'd be great.
So if it takes veers right into that yellow box, if it requires something big, and then it veers back over left for the resolution part, but if it doesn't, it just circles around that box right there and goes straight on down, I think we got a map. I think it'll work.
All right.
You're going to see the beauty of it once
Can't
I
wait
do
to
this
see it.
chart.
Yeah, I want to go on the record as opposed to this particular flow chart being in our codified ordinances. Okay, so are we good? Y'all have the direction you need? Okay, great. We'll move on to update on actions related to the low-income housing tax credit effort, and it looks like this is Brian.
Yeah, so I basically picked off where my memo from our second meeting in May left off. And I think I'm just gonna, I'm gonna highlight a few things. I've got an additional list of things because this is a constantly moving initiative, which we know we're down to, now 7.5 months before the deadline of the application. And so I'll just highlight a few things on the sort of challenges and next steps piece. I think we've been pretty clear that related to the soccer fields, there is a discussion with a property owner that I think would be ideal right to the south of the schools if we get that far. And there are going to be some challenges with price in particular that are going to need to be worked out, but that is ultimately what the school board will be doing. And hopefully we'll be able to support that initiative in whatever way with why it's valuable to have that green space if there's future development back there. The other thing is, and it's been brought up before, but I'll just make sure it's out there, is that other spots have been thought about if that deal can't be worked on. But I know there have been meetings with the various stakeholders that are involved in rec soccer and some of the other sports activities that are going on currently. So that is being dealt with. I have not been in those meetings. Second thing is I did highlight that the Springers for More Springers are meeting, and I wanted to be really clear because there were some issues about those initial stakeholder meetings and maybe not everyone feeling that there was enough transparency. But as I clearly emphasized, 3 elected officials are attending. We're not members, we're not representing anybody, we're attending because we're interested. And 2 from the school board, and then myself from village council. There could certainly be another village council member there. I know that Johnny's been invited as well. And those meetings are happening every Sunday, and there's a plan to continue, particularly to talk about the future and what that looks like. So those folks are brainstorming. Happy to talk more about those meetings. And then I wanted to ask Amy, do we know when we're going to hear from the bond attorney?
I was so optimistic that I'd have it before tonight, and I don't. But we did talk today, and he said he's close. A few
Okay.
less pieces that are falling into place, and then we should have something.
So this week?
Well, it's the 4th of July.
Okay.
And I'm not on Thursday, right? And I'm not sure if he's taking I didn't ask if he's taking any of the time off. I am taking Thursday and Friday off, so hopefully by Wednesday, but if not, then we will be into next week.
Well, one thing I know that would be very helpful for the Yellow Springs School Board is to know something by Friday. Because,
Friday of this week?
Yes, because they're getting ready for their next meeting on the 13th.
Okay.
So it'd be great.
I'll
if we
mention that
could-
to him.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks.
And just correction, I think it's the 11th.
Oh, okay.
Thursday of next week.
Okay, yeah. I listened to the date, but yeah, so, okay, yeah, all right. Okay, and then I wanted to mention, so I had a second really good conversation with the government liaison from OFA, Ohio Housing Finance Agency, and he mentioned a couple things as kind of a follow-up to the community housing development organizations that I wanted to share that I heard after I submitted this. One of the things he mentioned is the CHODO, Community Housing Development Organization. It really helps in being successful with your application for them to be proximate to Yellow Springs. And so, I know Judy had asked me about Buckeye, which did a project recently in Springfield. There are a variety of others that were on that list that are in our area. So establishing that they understand the community and those needs, it was indicated to me that that's important. I don't know if I've ever mentioned this, but this project, it was shared with us, does not require TAP waivers like some of the other smaller projects because it is at scale. That's built into the model. Also, those CHODOs are incentivized with set-asides, which is part of what keeps them competitive with the privates that are doing this work. And if it hasn't been mentioned before, the developer of the project also hires a property manager. And finally, at our last environmental commission meeting, we looked up the environmental standards for these projects. So they have to do an environmental 1. If anything comes up, they have to do an environmental 2. They have pretty high standards for what the expectations are. So actually, Johanna looked that up. And so I think that made us feel better about some of those issues, or at least me. But I wanted to share that work. Not sure I have much else to highlight. Obviously, hearing from the bond attorney, and then July 9th is when we asked for feedback from Cresco and AUM, and that's going to really determine next steps, which would have to start pretty quickly. Identifying the developer, working with Home Inc. to do that, and working out some of those property issues, all of it contingent, of course, on getting the LIHTC award. So, happy to answer any questions, but I think those are the main things that have been going on.
Can I step in?
Yes.
I need to, I'm having, and I probably need to disappear any second now. So I like what Lynn Hartman said, and I don't know if that got any traction, but effectively what she said was, well, if we take a little bit of the soccer field for housing, there's enough soccer field remaining such that it doesn't have to be replaced. And I don't really know if there's a concerted effort to intentionally replace that. I know, Brian, your report alluded to the property owner to the south, so I don't know if that's the involvement. Excuse me. And then I presume the bond attorney would answer the question about whether if you decollateralize 3 acres or however many acres you decollateralize, you have to replace those with 3 other acres. And is that why we're talking about the property owner to the south? And I would like to hear loudly and clearly in terms of purchasing land, what the expectation of the village is going to be. And on that note, to what degree, if the LIHTC grant is awarded, to what degree does that $15 million go towards purchasing any of these properties, such that, if we purchase it up front, are we getting reimbursed, or is that just a straight out purchase? So lots of questions about, where the money's going, how many pieces of property need to be moved to accomplish the goals.
Yeah, well, I think a couple of those are I can give pretty quick answers, because St. Mary shared information with us about those. On the replacement thing, which was initial legal questions that were asked, it wasn't identified that this was about replacement. So we'll know more about whether that's required or not. But the initial assessment was it's more about decollateralizing or uncollateralizing than it is about replacement. That being said, besides rec soccer, there are other school sports activities that are happening. Girls cross country, girls soccer. So that's part of the motivation for making sure to at least replace that land. In terms of how the purchase would work, the deal can handle $75,000, $85,000 an acre is what we were told. And it also seemed like if it was school property, the village would have to buy it and then sell it to the developer. And so Emily maybe has more details. Go ahead.
Yeah, I can just provide a hypothetical, which is that I think typically developers set up purchase options so they don't require that the purchase is completed at the time of application. It's more needing to evidence site control for a sufficient length of time to make the funders comfortable that if they fund it, the land will then be able to be acquired. Does that make sense? So it would be contingent on funding. Is usually how they're set up.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Did that answer your questions, Kevin?
It sounds like it did.
Okay.
Yes, it sounds like, what I'm looking for is, us not having some very big burden on us to purchase a lot of property.
We are not.
We're frankly prepared to. Yeah,
Yep.
great. And I'd like that to be laid out and written down so we know for sure. I'm not doubting what I've heard, just so that, it's clear what all the steps are moving forward. I know a lot of it depends on the bond attorney's responses.
Yep.
Okay, are there other questions or comments, including from anybody in the public, about this issue? Okay, I just had one. So in the challenges section of your memo, you said finalizing a project site by mid-July is critical. I'm not sure if I'm reading between the lines, or so if I'm misunderstanding this, just let me know. But is that where the school board meeting stuff comes into play, and there's a question about, because middle of July is in a week, right? So I'm just trying to get a sense of how meaningful is that timeline and what happens on that timeline.
I think the most meaningful thing about it, why I put, critical, is that that's when we can start reaching out to developers. I mean, once we know we have a site. And so if a bond attorney comes back and says yes, right, that can be uncollateralized, then that, the school board, I think, would be making decisions related to that. And then if we hear back from our CBE partners, then again, we can say we've at least got one site, so we can start reaching out to people. So,
Okay, and so then, did you have something related to that?
Yes.
Yeah, come on up.
Okay. Just, and Amy can add to this. So just to remind everyone that you approved $7,500 to do this initial investigation. That made sense, just to see if there's a path forward or not. But we would need to come back to the council for the rest of the funding to continue that process if there is a path forward. And we met with Meg, the board president, and I met with Meg about the processes for the next steps, and that would include getting a legal description of the land that would be petitioned or subdivided off, and possibly rezoning that land to residential C, so high-density zoning. So we can continue to move forward on these steps, but the school superintendent and the school board was pretty clear that it will need to be a win-win for the school board as well, and we are looking at this as a way of relocating the athletic fields as a school goal that will be discussed at the next school board meeting, but that additional funding we'll be asking you for that at probably your next meeting.
additional legal funding, you mean?
Yeah, additional legal funding.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Thanks.
Okay, thanks. So then you said it just now, and then I kind of flagged in the memo. So the we here is sort of effectively this sort of working group within, sort of under the banner of Springers for More Springers, or who's the we that would be coming back? Like in the memo, it's, and have a list of potential developers who we will reach out to if a project site is secured, or to allow us to secure a CHODO. I guess there was a point at which it felt relatively clear that the we was Home Inc., for example. Is it at this point
Actually,
it's sort of the working group?
It was meant to be council.
Okay.
With the we's, but yeah, maybe I messed one up. So, but there is sort of a question, and you've asked before, like who's running the show kind of thing. So I think we need to look at, and actually I talked to Emily about this recently, is we do want to make sure that council's kept up to date, regularly, school boards kept up to date regularly, and so we need to figure out what that, how that looks, right, and who's involved if we do have a path forward. So, yeah.
Okay. Are there any other? Sure.
Yeah, so I hope I've been really consistent over the last several weeks that we are more than happy to answer questions, provide support, give advice, share expertise, but we're kind of watching to see what is happening with the public bodies. If there is land available, can the bond be released? That's not really our work to move forward, if that makes sense. But we are, of course, walking with you. And then I think, from my perspective, and I again don't want to get ahead of the board, but that we would be, interested in entering back into the mix in more of a leadership capacity if we reach certain milestones, including around zoning, site availability, and the bond issue. Because until then, we can't really, I don't think it makes sense for us to be reaching out proactively to development partners. But I would certainly think that we would be walking with council and selecting a developer if the time comes. But I would think that we would have more of a leadership role in that piece of it, since we would be finding a partner, and then obviously the village is an important partner too. So does that make sense, or I'm kind of thinking out loud?
I think generally, my sense, and y'all jump in if you lost Kevin, so now it's only us, is just that I wasn't under the impression that we as a body had said, okay, Brian, you're now acting on behalf of the council, and the council is the we. I heard it as, you're going to meetings, you're talking to people, there's a question about how this is moving forward. Yes, I have wondered who is sort of in charge, who's behind it, so that I feel like if we got to a point where the council was calling developers, for example, I feel like we should talk about that a little bit. I've been kind of okay with a little bit of, ambiguity of sort of who's in charge, but if we got to the point where we're contacting developers as council, I think that's something we should talk about a little bit more.
Which I think I referenced in the memo, right? And I'm looking at these we's again. I mean, the reason why I used we is because we agreed that we would send that letter to the CBE partners, and we, as a body, agreed that we would, commission the bond attorney. So, and that's definitely where I'm using that royal we. Cool.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. Thanks. I'll just say, I guess we'll get to it in future agenda in a second, but it seems like we should get another check-in in a couple weeks because it's fast-moving.
Yeah.
So there's no new business, right? So we can move on from that. Future agenda items then. Is there anything that's not on our list here that Judy came up or others came up that we should be adding?
Yeah, you need the resolution to approve the funds to get the parking spaces at Lawson. We're going to bring back the granting monies to YSDC. I will be sending you folks reminders to get me your questions by Monday at 5, if not sooner. And the only other thing that's not, I think, written down there is we do have some swearings in on that day.
So wait, Monday at 5? Are you talking about the YSDC thing? What was the questions by Monday at 5?
Wednesday.
Wednesday, okay, just making sure. I'll take 4 more days, but.
I think I said Wednesday.
Okay, and then I would like to have an update on the LIHTC stuff. Does that make sense to others?
What, at next
Yeah.
meeting?
Sounds like we would.
Yeah, well,
that was
because
planned.
that will,
Because we
I'm sure
will.
we'll know about the bond attorney, we'll know about the
Yeah.
school,
So that's a Johnny Amy thing, correct? You are going to know what's going to be legally possible. You're going to have thoughts about things, and then council can talk about your thoughts about the things. Does that sound correct?
Well, and it won't be a great unveiling, they'll know before then.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we'll put
But in the,
So memo, I'm thinking, okay, we'll figure it out at AP, but
well, this is also like in the ambiguity space, right? Like in lieu of getting memos from staff, we're getting updates, in this case, from Brian and then community members. So if you want to change that dynamic where there is a memo.
It still needs to be Brian right now.
Okay.
Because he's going to more than meetings. I mean, I can't make Sunday meetings and they're having potlucks every Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but I think where, Johnny, you and Meg would come into play is if we do have zoning stuff to talk about, right? We'll know by then. And then, of course, Amy with the legal. So, yeah, and then I'll be able to update on any other stuff going on.
do you need an executive session?
Do we need an exec session?
Yeah, I mean, to me, there's an assumption being made about how this project would move forward, if in fact it could move forward. That's real estate and development. I don't know that everyone's on the same page as to how that looks, what that looks like moving forward and with whom,
Right.
and how it is directed, and that seems like an executive session.
Let's put a pin in that as a definite possibility based on what we get back from bond counsel, perhaps.
Okay.
Bear in mind that the information that we do get back from bond counsel is attorney-client privilege information. It's your privilege, you hold that. So once that communication is back with us, we'll make some decisions about how we're going to handle it from that point forward.
So basically, we'll check in between meetings about the prospect of doing an executive session or what might be on the full agenda next time. Is that?
We might know by agenda planning
I
on.
would think we could decide an agenda planning about an exec session.
Okay.
And then if there is one, you typically let everyone know as soon as you know, right, that there's going to be one. So, yeah, we would send that out. Does that work?
Okay.
What I got.
And then
Any other-
is TLT coming?
I'm going to move them.
Okay.
We have a huge, I mean, this is just getting massive.
Cool.
I thought this one would be fast, this meeting, and so this next meeting, another hour to an hour and a half on top of this, for sure. So I'm moving.
And so then agenda planning, we can talk about it, because there's some of these things that don't feel like they're, like if we need to punt them, we could. Any other future agenda items? All right, then I think I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, thanks, everybody.
Thank you.